The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. This is program number 912, coming to you on Monday the 3rd of September 2018. On this program, I will speak to you on the topic, the Caribbean Court of Justice, Part 3. But before getting into the topic, a few preliminary comments. Firstly, and as usual, I would like to send out my deepest condolences to all families which have suffered recent bereavements. And in that connection, the family of Miss Sylvia Mills of Lodge Village. And once again, the family of Bishop Ian Enoch, who will be laid to rest next Sunday, the 9th of September. In that connection, let me remind members of my church, St. Elizabeth Spiritual Baptist Church at Belmont, that the church will not be holding morning service on Sunday the 9th, because almost all of us would be going to the funeral of Bishop Enoch, which commences at about 10 o'clock with the viewing at Chester Cottage Sunday morning. So no church this Sunday coming here at St. Elizabeth. A trip is planned, and those of us who have vehicles would be going individually to Chester for that funeral. Secondly, let me thank those persons who commended me for the programs Studying Abroad. And I particularly relished the comments of the lady at Stubbs, who normally sells her barbecue lunches on Sundays, Miss Scipio, at the deep corner at the bottom of Stubbs. She had very extensive comments to make on that program, Studying Abroad, and I want to thank you, Miss Scipio, for your comments, and all the others who commented on the program. I think by now, most of us who have students going abroad have already said goodbye to them. I myself got an email from my cousin's daughter in Taiwan saying that she reached safely and how the campus is beautiful and how the people are welcoming. For those few students who still haven't traveled yet, let me wish you safe travels. I hope you heard what I had to say. But if you were to crystallize the advice I gave, it's simply keep your head on and be very careful at all times. Don't trust anybody until you really get to know them. Okay? Happy studies. Final preliminary comments. I want to commend all those students who are back out to school this morning, and indeed the little ones who have gone out to school for the first time, to primary school, including my beautiful grandson, Wise Oliver. He went out to Sugar Mill Academy this morning for the first time and looking so beautiful, so smart in his uniform. All the best to all of the teachers, and we must not forget to commend the teachers of the nation's children, doing a great job. Speaking about education, I know there would be many students who have been successful in their various tertiary exams and who would be looking for jobs. I do hope and trust that most of you will find reasonable jobs. But for those who do not find employment right away, I want to tell you that the door is still open. And let me invite you now to get a pen and piece of paper, because I am going to give you some useful information concerning your future. You see, they say the Lord helps those who help themselves. And for those former students who are at home waiting and seeking for employment, there is something you can do in the meantime while you wait. And this is what I'm going to tell you now. We have an institution in this country, as in many, well, practically all the Commonwealth countries of the Caribbean, called UE, University of the West Indies. And in every island it has an open campus. Our UE Open Campus in St. Vincent is at Murray Road, opposite the Memorial Hall. That open campus conducts training courses, and I will be reading to you most of the training courses which UE offers. Many of them are 3-month courses, short term. But if you take any one of those courses, you will be better prepared for employment or indeed for further training when the time comes. So I want you to do 2 things for yourself. 1, take down the telephone number for UE Open Campus. It is 456-1183. 456-1183. And I will give you the address of their website. You can go on the World Wide Web. And if you want the one we have here, it is www.open.uwi.edu. Okay? Excuse me. Telephone number again, 456-1183. Website www.open.uwi.edu. Make inquiries. Ask them about what courses they offer. In fact, if you have the time, and indeed if you are unemployed, time is one thing you will have in abundance. Pass by the UE Open Campus and get a leaflet. You will get information about these and other courses. Certificate in Finance for Decision. There is a course in Managing Conflict in the Workplace. There is a course in Advanced Counseling, a course in Project Management, a course in Supervisory Management. UE has a course in Caring for the Elderly. They have a course for guidance and in guidance and counseling. There is a course in business writing, one in entrepreneurship, dealing with small business and management, one in management itself, one in managing people, and one in occupational health and safety, among other courses. They're not very expensive. All they will need is your time and attention, but if you are unemployed, time is what you have. And rather than sit at home or waste the time, you can be furthering yourself and making yourself more marketable in the job place, or preparing yourself for even further studies if you took one or more of these courses. And these courses are not just for the unemployed. Those who are working can also take some of these courses that are offered on a part-time basis. So that don't sit at home and be depressed day after day and bemoan the fact that you have sent out so many application letters and you have not received as much as one acknowledgement. You have not been invited to as few as one interview. Make yourself better prepared for your future by taking one of these freely available courses. I wish that in my day these courses were available. So we have a resource right here. Make use of it. The UWI Open Campus. Pass in there, get your information, or telephone them, or go on the website and interest yourself in what is available. That is the best preparation. So when you pray and ask the Lord to help you, you help yourself because the Lord has made all these facilities available. You may say, well, what these facilities, what a UWI course has to do with the Lord? He has made all things possible. You just have to get up and help yourself, so that when the time comes and you do get an interview for a job, it will be very impressive for you to say to your prospective employer, oh, I took such and such a course in my spare time. I am qualified in such and such. Much better than those who simply say, oh, I have subjects. And they might ask, well, since you wrote your subjects and you got your results, what have you done in the meantime? And you say, well, nothing really. That is not impressive. It would be impressive if you could say, I went and took a short 3-month course at UWI. Okay? So I wish you all the very best. Oh, and by the way, you have till the 12th of September to send in the application form. Okay? 12th September, so you still have another week and change. Now for the topic of the evening, the CCJ, Part 3. Some of you must be wondering, how come Mr. Campbell is going on and on so much about the CCJ? I will tell you. When I did my first degree at UWI in law, and my first degree in law, because I had done a degree before I went to UWI, I was fascinated by the question of the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council. So that when I was finished my degree program at UWI and got the chance to further my studies, I got a scholarship to do my PhD at Cambridge University. I went off to Cambridge towards the end of 1974, and the topic of my research dissertation was the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council as a West Indian Court of Appeal. And I spent a solid amount of time between Cambridge and London, commuting daily, sometimes overnighting as a squatter with my good friend, Brother Starkey John, in London, doing research in the basement of the Privy Council's building in Downing Street, where it was at the time. For 3 solid years, well, you could say 4, I went religiously through the archives of the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, some old files, some of them probably not opened for nearly 100 years. I immersed myself so that even though I did not complete my PhD thesis, I acquired a lot of knowledge about the workings of the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council. Ever since that time, I have been consumed with the idea that we in the Caribbean need to have our final court of appeal to replace the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council. Not that the judgments of the Privy Council were in any way inferior or defective. Far from it. But with the coming of independence for a lot of the former British colonial territories, almost every country that became independent set up its own final court and said goodbye to the Privy Council. The way that parents will bring up children, and when the children come of age, they go out on their own, because you're not expected to be in the home cocoon for the whole of your lives. There comes a time when, as good as your parents are, as much as you love your parents, you take your leave and you set up your own residential establishment, have your own family. And I yearned for the day when the Caribbean would get its own final court of appeal. That day came on the 16th of April 2005, when the Caribbean Court of Justice was inaugurated at Queen's Hall in Port of Spain, Trinidad. A ceremony that I had to attend, and I attended and enjoyed. I felt on top of the world to know that at long last, a dream I had cherished for so many years had finally come to pass. So that thereafter, I hope that one day St. Vincent and the Grenadines would accept the appellate jurisdiction of the Caribbean Court of Justice and move away from the Privy Council, thanking the Privy Council for its past services. It is a source of great disappointment to me that even though we set up our own final court of appeal in its appellate jurisdiction, that only 4 of the former British Caribbean colonies who had become independent had decided to move away from the Privy Council to our own indigenous court, namely Guyana, Barbados, Belize, and Dominica. So that when some people talk about the CCJ, and some people have only heard about the CCJ since 2005, when it was launched, I harbored, I yearned for the thoughts of such a court coming into being since way back in the 1970s. So for me, it is a question of passion, not just a topic that is to be debated. For me, it's an article of faith, because a nation, a people having its own final court, to me, is the essence of political sovereignty, the essence of independence. I don't see how a nation could regard itself as being completely independent if it has to depend on a former colonial power for its final judgments. What is ironic? You know, these days, every news item you hear on the BBC, you hear about Brexit, Brexit, Brexit. What is Brexit? Brexit represents a decision made by the British people in a referendum that they no longer want to be part of the European Union. And one of the things that the British had complained about, they said they didn't like the idea that the European Court of Justice could be their final court in matters dealing with certain things like human rights. And up to now, you will hear those who are in favor of getting out of the EU in England saying that they wanted their legal independence because they discovered that the European Court of Justice was overruling the decisions of what used to be the House of Lords, but is now the Supreme Court. So here's the majority of British people wanting to get away from the domination of other final appeal system. And here we, clinging on to the domination of the Privy Council just because it has been there historically. And that is why on the last occasion on which I dealt with this topic, program before the last, because in the last two topics I dealt with studying abroad, I made the point, and I hope I made it with clarity, that it was essential for us as a people to repose full confidence in our own institution and our own people, and have our own final appeal court. We have one. The visit of Justice Saunders last week was a historic one, because in the town hall meeting last week, Wednesday night, he was able to bring forward a lot of points that perhaps people had not thought about. And I had challenged those who say keep the Privy Council to explain the reasons why they wanted the Privy Council to be retained. And I'm still waiting to hear some of the reasons. Now, those of you who were at the town hall meeting at French's house last week, Wednesday night, or who followed it on radio or streaming on the internet, would have heard some people complain about various shortcomings of the legal system in the Caribbean, and complain about shortcomings in the legal system here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Okay. No one is denying that there are not problems in the legal system. But the point is those problems have arisen while the Privy Council is our final court of appeal. How can you blame the CCJ for the problems we have now? And it seemed to me that what people are saying is, we don't want the CCJ because there are delays in our system. We have to wait so long to get things done and so on and so on. Well, that doesn't make sense to me, because those delays in the system have occurred while the Privy Council is our final court. But what Justice Saunders pointed out is that the CCJ is in a position to correct many of those shortcomings in the Caribbean, whereas the Privy Council cannot. The Privy Council can't influence the timetabling of matters in our High Court or in the Court of Appeal or in the Magistrates' Court. But the CCJ can, and he pointed out, and he cited Guyana as an example, that the CCJ was able to assist Guyana in such a way that many of the problems Guyana had in their legal system have been satisfactorily addressed since Guyana has accepted the jurisdiction, the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ. So that while I recognize the objections people have, I would like to hear them spell these out and tell me how come the Privy Council is better placed to address these concerns than is our own local Caribbean Court of Justice. Final point I want to make, and I told you this is a drum I'm going to beat, this is a topic I'm going to press because it means a lot to me, and it has meant a lot to me since in the 1970s. I'm not a Johnny-come-lately when it comes to matters of the Privy Council. It means a lot to me. To me, it's an article of faith. It's an aspiration that I have, and I would not let go of it because I have done the research and I know whereof I speak. The final point I want to make is this. The Court of Appeal of the Eastern Caribbean has established that in order for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, well, let me put it in its correct legal perspective. In order for St. Lucia to go into the CCJ, they have established St. Lucia doesn't need a referendum. The sections of the Constitution in St. Lucia that they looked at and analyzed and came to that conclusion are very similar to the sections in our Constitution, so that the consensus of legal opinion is that St. Vincent, like St. Lucia, doesn't require a referendum for us to move from the Privy Council to the CCJ, but what we require is a 2/3 majority vote among the elected members of the House of Assembly. Grenada and Antigua are preparing for referenda in both countries, but we do not need a referendum. And I will explain on the next program the reasoning of the majority of the Court of Appeal in the St. Lucia reference case, which they decided. So I want belatedly to thank Justice Saunders for the expositions he made when he came here. He spoke to several organizations, and it is my understanding that some of these organizations would be inviting him to come back to speak further with them. I look forward to those continuing visits because this is a topic which we need to continue to debate and discuss. Probably wouldn't convince those who are avidly opposed, but at least we would enlighten those who have an open mind. Okay? So that is all from this program of The Law and You. I remind you, if you are unemployed or even employed and have the ambition, check out UE. Check out the open campus and see the courses which they have on offer, and try and sign up and improve yourself. Make yourself more marketable, make yourself more enlightened, give yourself an advantage when it comes to being interviewed in future days for a potential job. All right? Well, that is all from this program of The Law and You, program number 912. I look forward to being of further service to you next week, Monday, DV, for another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. Do have a pleasant week, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, and may the good Lord continue to bless us all.
The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC, and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.